What does it mean to be a guerrilla filmmaker? A lot of people who know me through the business side of things see a picture that I sent from Cannes randomly or whatever, and they think that I'm living La Vida Loca. What, and that filmmakers routinely, just spend their lives getting drunk and, doing deals on champagne and swanning it around. What's the reality like?
Most films don't make money. And when I say most films, I'm talking about over 90% of all films that are made outside the studio system. It's different for the studios because the studios control everything. They control financing, production, distribution, sales, and many of them are also owned by broadcasters. So they control it at every level. But if you're in the outside world, the majority of films just don't make money. And it's why I've helped more first-time directors than probably anybody else in the UK, either as a producer or as a distributor, and sometimes as both. So I've given the chance to over 50 first-time directors, and I've only distributed about 120 films, which means that roughly 50% of my output has been from first-time directors. Nobody else, Channel 4, the BBC, all the studios, they don't have that kind of ratio. And at least 80% of those first-time directors never do another film because those films never make their money back. Some of the remaining 20%, and when I say they don't do another film, they don't go into television, they don't go into corporate, they don't go into theatre, they just disappear, they don't do anything. Some of them teach, some of them go into totally different businesses. And of the 20% that remain, there are some have gone into television. Only about 3 of all those filmmakers have gone on to do a second film. I think one of them's done a third. Only one of them has been successful and made a good living, and that's a man called Lenny Abrahamson, whose 5th film, Room, was nominated for an Oscar. I distributed his first film. And he's also just done that hugely successful television series, Normal People. But it's a rarity. So he's the only one. So if it's just over 50%, oh, and myself, I have actually, I'm now making my 4th film. But I'm very different from everyone else because I explained at the beginning of this, I'm multidisciplined. And so now I'm 66, I should be retiring. And now I've suddenly sort of come into my own because I do all these different things, but I don't make any money out of it. So we're talking, if you round up my figures, we're talking about 2% of the first-time filmmakers that I worked with go on to make a decent living. There's a couple that are doing very well in television, and one of them made his second film 20 years after he made the first one, and he directs things like Doctors, Coronation Street, EastEnders, Shakespeare in Hathaway, a lot of those sort of TV series, and that's, I mean, there is a proper business. My wife doesn't like doing films. She much prefers television. Television is far better paid than most films, unless you're working for the studios. And it's much more enjoyable, and your product, whatever it is you're doing, gets seen around the world. The majority of films that I've been involved with, I may release them in the UK, and they sell for very small sums of money for television. And then they get sold in a few countries around the world, but the income is nowhere near what it is. But it's always been the case. I mean, there are a small percentage of people in any business. You look at building, or you look at, retail outlets and things. There's the small few, the well-known names that make serious sums of money. I've worked with people like Anthony Hopkins and Lenny Henry and Kenneth Branagh and people, and they make really good livings, and all of them multimillionaires. I would have thought, yes, I'm sure. But the vast majority of people that ever come into the business, just they make a living if they're lucky. Chris Jones, who writes the Guerrilla Filmmaker's Handbook, which I appear in, he and I continually, when people ask us, you know, what's the best case scenario you can get from your first low budget film or your first film, and the best case scenario really is the investors get their money back. And that's the case all over the world. It's the case in Hollywood. It's the case in India. You know, there is a small percentage at the top do well, but the vast majority don't. And there's even more, people never talk about this, is there's all the people that do film courses and that never, ever go into the industry. There are film courses everywhere. You know, in Leeds, where you and I come from, there's the Northern Film School, which is a subsidiary of Leeds Beckett. Leeds Beckett have a separate film course, I'm told. Then there's Leeds Trinity have film courses, and then Leeds University. So within one city, at any one time, there's probably 200 to 250 people all doing some kind of film or television or media course. And there's the same in Bradford, not as big, but Bradford has film courses, Manchester, Liverpool. I'm doing a talk on Saturday to the University of Lincoln, or Lincolnshire, I can't remember which it is, but it's in Lincoln. And they've got a film course. I think it's documentary films, but maybe not. But so there's all those people going there. And most of them are going there to be film directors or film producers. I don't know whether they're thinking television. There just isn't the work. There isn't. So if you think of all the people wanting to be directors or producers coming out in the UK, and then there's not forgetting the National Film School and the London Film School and the Met Film School. So you've probably easily got every year 2,000 to 3,000 people wanting to be directors. In this country, at the moment, we're probably making 100 to 200 feature films a year, which is far too many. The market can't cope with that many. When you think of all the films made in other countries, that's a lot. Where are they going to go? If they were thinking of a career in television, then that's a really good business. Television is a product, an industry that needs product. It needs to be fed. The film industry doesn't need any more films. So with films, it's a total and absolute buyer's market, and most films sell for very little. So you get